Here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Non-Victim Nation podcast. I am joined once again by my good friend Dan Yaki,
How's it going?
the uh, I guess the owner of this fine establishment. That's what we'll call it.
Welcome to the Continental.
Welcome to the Continental again. And we are starting off our day with a little bit of old fashioned. I figure that's
It's afternoon. We're
it's
good.
afternoon,
It's early
so there we
afternoon.
go.
Cheers.
I maintain there's nothing wrong with day drinking.
Oh, that's delicious.
That's very good,
Well, I could drink a lot of that.
right? So since the last time you were here, has there been anything new and exciting that what's going on, or?
Um, yeah, we're still moving and shaking. So the facility as a whole, for those that don't know, we've got a 7,000 square foot training facility here in basically close to downtown Phoenix, upper downtown.
Mhm.
And the space has been sort of evolving and changing as the needs of different customers and agencies and, government people that want to come train, whatever the case is. And I started getting more requests to do media.
Oh, really?
So
Nice.
in the last couple of weeks, we've done a few with some companies that wanted to come in and use the shoot house, use the exterior stairway with that cool, the cool cinder block back wall back there. It's on the
Hmm.
outside of the building in our gated parking lot. And they did some really, really cool video and photo shoot stuff for some tactical products.
Nice.
So a couple of different companies that are media companies, a couple different companies that have in-house media guys have reached out to me. And it's really nice because we're starting to supplement it with some weekday income other than government agencies.
Right.
So that's a huge change, and we're kind of shifting and moving and making sure that we're making people aware that that's available. So that's probably the biggest change. Other than that, still looking at different avenues to get more space
Hmm.
because we're booked out all the time, like every weekend.
Right.
I just released the availability for companies to start booking training sessions here at the facility for next year. And some companies like Glen Independence was all over it right away. I was like,
Right.
holy shit, man. All right, cool. Like, let's do it. Fieldcraft is already building out all of their schedule for 2024
Right.
methods on it. So, problem is there's only so many weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Mm.
just trying to figure that part out. But no, the space is doing fantastic. It's been open just over 2 years now. It was 2 years in July.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And yeah, we're moving and shaking and we're growing and trying to meet everybody's needs. And um, I whenever I do this and the whole thought behind it, and I know we've talked about this before, the whole co-op thing was for me to be a support role to these other companies that want to train civilians and government agencies.
Hmm.
That was the whole purpose. I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to do the training anymore. I don't. I'm a glorified facility manager,
Right.
right? So what I want to do is I want to help these companies that come in and use the space grow. I want to help them fill their classes. I want to make sure that they have everything they need to hold successful classes and grow themselves.
Hmm.
Because then they're going to book more and then everybody wins, right?
Right.
So that's sort of the plan.
Yeah. So, like, just this past weekend on Saturday, we did the class with Nick LaRosa and Hugh Crane,
Yep.
Crane Tech Knives.
Correct.
So training on clinch fighting and knife tactics or
Hmm.
knife defense tactics, I guess,
Yep.
which was amazing stuff to learn, especially for people who've never had that sort of training before, that sort
Right.
of thing. But it was really cool because this is, I guess, Nick's his alumni. He does this once a year and he just teaches a different subject every year.
Yeah. Last
And
year was
so,
medical.
okay, yeah. And so for all of those people that aren't typically coming here for other types of training, they get exposure to all this, and they get to see, like, a list of the other types of training and things that go on.
Right.
So again, you're kind of broadening out
Right.
just you know.
Well, and it was funny because in that class, if you notice, whenever I introduced myself to everybody, I
Mhm.
had them raise their hand who'd been here before,
Right.
and I would say half, maybe just over half, had been here before. Because Nick also uses the space for some of his other training that he does.
Hmm.
And then some of the people have been with him a long time, and they were here last year for the medical class that he did for
Right.
alumni. Um, So yeah, it's really cool to see new people come in and see the space and get the reactions. I love it.
Yeah. So I love the fact that so many people that are coming here for whatever it is they're uh, learning, training, whatever,
Yeah.
they get that exposure to so many other things, which is, and that's helping us tremendously because now we're getting exposure to like all these different people that train in different things. And I'm creating a list of people that I want to have on as guests, because I'm genuinely interested in like what they do, why they do it, what their backgrounds are and how this benefits the community as a whole, but like individuals like, building their confidence, increasing their skill levels and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
which I
It's
think is all really important.
And it's really cool to see both sides of that, right? So you've got, like you said, the instructors, the
Hmm.
people that own these companies that come in and want to train civilians, and they do everything from stop the bleed to team tactics CQB, right?
Hmm.
Everything in between, low light, no light, actual situational stuff. We do car work out in the back. Um, so that's one side of it. The other side is watching the customer, the consumer end, and how they are starting to open up and look at other training companies, not just one that they stuck with, right?
Right.
Before a concept like this, you had guys that would go take a fieldcraft survival class, loved it, and they would go, okay, what else do they offer? And they would take a whole bunch of fieldcraft survival classes. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it's always good to have other options and other opinions from qualified professionals.
Right.
So what you're seeing now is you're seeing customers, the consumer, coming in and taking a fieldcraft class that happens to be around medical or whatever, or it
Hmm.
happens to be around situational awareness, like their personal defense class. Now they're going, okay, what else can I take that's like this that they offer here?
Right.
And then they'll take a class from Method Endeavors and they're like, that was awesome. And then they'll come ask me, hey, what can I take that branches off more in this direction? Because that's what I'm interested in. Oh,
Hmm.
maybe you should look at this class from Guardian or this class from Independence.
Right.
Um, so it's really cool to see the consumer end. That's what gets me excited is
Hmm.
getting this to the end users who actually need the training and need the help. But watching them bounce uh, from company to company and use different things from different companies and kind of blend them together.
Hmm.
And everybody, obviously, whoever comes and trains here, we're vetting them. We're making sure that they understand like how this whole concept works.
Hmm.
I've only ever had to ask one person not to come back. But other than that, everybody's been fantastic. But
Right.
I enjoy seeing the consumer end of it
Yeah.
because that end user, they get super stoked about what's going on. And I love that part.
Right. And kind of on that point, there are certain people that are instructors that may be excellent instructors. They might not resonate with people a certain way where somebody else might,
Hmm.
so they can still get a lot of the same sorts of training just from different supplier,
Right.
different instructor
I've even
things.
taken the same class from the same company, just a different instructor, and had a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Same exact class, same
Hmm.
curriculum, in a different fashion.
Hmm. Yeah, because everybody's got like their own little things that
Yep.
they do. Some people are much more serious and they're very just like kind of point by point, we're going to do this. And the other people like Josh Logan, who's got an amazing sense of humor and he kind of infuses that into
Is that
whatever
what we're
training we're
calling it?
doing.
All right.
That's what we're calling
I'll
it.
give Josh that this time. Only because he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, for me, that works really well,
Yeah.
having a little bit of levity to kind of like, yes, this is serious, but you can still have fun while we're training.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Oh, yeah. So I'm really happy to hear that we're growing into like some other avenues too that kind of add to that.
Right.
So, because honestly, that isn't something I would have thought of, like having media like do their production things
Yeah.
here, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, they're always looking for new places to get content that doesn't look like anywhere else.
Hmm. Right.
I even had them shoot some stuff out on the patio where all the posters are wheat pasted to the wall.
Right. Right.
Looks like downtown Cuba.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we had them doing some stuff out there. It's really cool.
Nice. Right on.
So,
Um, so we've got all those things going.
yep,
I am working to come in and take more and more of these training things myself, just because A, I love learning new things, and
yep,
B, because again, I just want to become even more immersed into the community and interact with more people.
yeah,
So I'm always interested to see like what kinds of things are going on here also.
yeah,
Um, it's funny though, because like I'll talk to people and tell them about the podcast and whatever else is going on, and like the training and things, the events that I go to. And they're like, oh, right on. Where'd you do that? It's like Tech Hub. It's like I get to advertise just a little bit on my own. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, it's like you got to come check this
Well,
out.
and one thing I need to do better is we're working on it. It is being built, but on the back end of our website, our whole website's getting redone. Our Get a Chub website. For those of you
Right.
that don't know, it's www.gettachhub.com. But if you squish it all together,
Right.
looks like Get a Chub,
There you go.
which I'm fine with.
Right.
Happy accident. But what we're working on is on the back end to have a shared calendar that the consumer can see that the training companies go into and schedule days of training
Hmm.
and book them right through the website. That way you can log in as an end user and say, oh, what's going on at TAC Hub this weekend? Oh, it's this class by this person. Or, hey, I want to take a class for my birthday next month. What's going on?
Right.
And you can see all the classes all spread out on a shared calendar for everybody.
That's awesome.
And then you'll be able to click. And then whenever you click the link, it'll take you right to that company's website for that class.
Hmm.
And then you can sign up right through them
So,
because they don't sign up for the class through me.
right.
Again, I just lease the space to these training
Hmm.
companies. They come in, they help. I help fill the class if I can,
Hmm.
if they give me the tools I need to help them fill it.
Right.
But right now we're getting great traction. But right now we're mostly just sharing our stuff on Instagram.
That's a good way to do it.
TAC_hub.
There
Shameless
you go.
plug.
We're all about the shameless plugs. I decided that the thing I wanted to talk about today was the fact
Oh
that
yeah.
you are being lied to, and not just a little bit, a lot. We're being lied to on a daily basis by not just the government, but by organizations that think that they are so far above us, like these globalist organizations, that they think they're so far above us that they're just going to like set these things in place
Yeah.
and nobody's going to notice. And then by the time we realize that it was a trap, it's
Yeah.
too, we're already there.
Well, just famous comedian. I'm not gonna say his name, but you guys know who it is. Guess what? There's a big club, and you ain't
Yeah,
in it.
exactly. George Carlin.
I love that guy, dude.
Well, there's a club, all right.
Yeah, you ain't in it.
Yeah. So the latest thing that I've come across is something called, uh,
It's called The Line, right?
yeah, the line,
The Line.
and then
Hunter told me a little bit about it.
yeah.
I've seen it before. I saw this probably 2 years ago, and I was like, the fuck, they're not. And
Mhm.
here we are.
Yeah. So it's not Enam. It's what was the name of the place?
I think that might have been.
Is it Enam?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it
So
was Enam
there's like these
from
videos, and I'll
Iman.
make sure we have links for it in the description. But they talk about these ideas of like this utopian sort of city. They don't call it that, but they make it sound that way.
The
Like,
layman would know it as a 15-minute city because that's what's being talked about right now in mainstream media is
okay,
these 15-minute cities. The idea that you can live in these super tiny, compact buildings.
hmm,
You'll own nothing and like it,
right,
right? But there's no need for transportation of your own because you can walk pretty much everywhere you need to go or
hmm,
take city transit or whatever they're going to provide you with.
right,
Money will go away because you'll have a card that's specific to that city for those specific vendors that you can use that, well,
hmm,
I don't want the government controlling any of my money.
right,
But yeah, so 15-minute cities, similar thing that they're talking about. In fact, there's even neighborhoods that they've built like that
hmm,
they started testing this theory out,
hmm,
since the 80s.
yeah. And so the way that they're advertising this is that you won't have to pay for rent and those sorts of things because it's just part of you living there. Again, there's no emissions because there are no cars. That it's within distance of like oceans and these like amenities and things that they have set up that everybody will be within a certain distance of one another so that travel is really almost non-existent
So
and that sort of thing.
let me ask you a couple questions because this opens the whole thing wide up.
Hmm.
Okay, so the first one is you don't need to pay rent, but are you assigned a job?
That I don't
Because
know.
you're earning they're not just going to be like, oh yeah, just hang out here for free, don't do
Hmm.
anything. Never going to happen.
Right,
So you'll have a job in that community doing something.
right,
Those will probably be assigned to you,
okay,
right? I mean, think about it. Everybody's seen Hunger Games,
yeah,
right? The next question is,
hmm,
are there different levels of amenities and living for
hmm.
different incomes of people?
So at least in a little bit of things that I've seen, it seems like it's all pretty equal,
So
but
you
that doesn't
mean to
mean it
tell
can't
me
be.
that somebody that lives in a mansion somewhere in LA is going to go, I'm going to go live in this thing, but I'm going to live in a cubicle like everybody else. Not going to fucking happen.
I mean,
So
isn't that
there
what
are,
communism is all about? Just being equal no matter what.
except for those who are have,
Right.
right? Rules for thee, not for me,
Right.
right? So the problem is you're going to take all the problems that a giant city has,
Hmm.
right? Inequality, good neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods, Section 8 housing, mansions, and you're going to compact it
Hmm.
into this little tiny space.
So it'd be like New York.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
It sounds like a great idea. What could possibly go wrong?
So here are the things that they're not telling you. That A, this is located, the place that they plan to build a line is in Saudi Arabia in the middle of the desert.
So you can't just walk out and leave.
Yeah. If you decide, you know what, I don't want to live here anymore, you can't just walk out, just like you're saying.
Yeah, and you don't have
You
a
know?
car. You're not driving out.
Right. So you were effective. It's essentially Alcatraz. You 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 can leave, but you're gonna die.
Sounds awesome.
Okay.
Survival of the fittest.
So the other thing is that, however their money system works, right? They effectively control it so that they can literally just turn it off.
Right.
You only have as much access as they decide they want to give to you.
Correct.
Okay, same thing with
Well,
food.
'cause they're going to tell you that because they're going to use the same barcode that's in your arm
Hmm.
to get you in and out of your house
Yeah,
and to get you on transit. It's going to be for convenience.
right.
How many things have Americans given up for the
For
sake
the
of
sake of
convenience?
convenience. Right, or safety.
Here, well, perceived safety that we're told we need to have.
Right. So
Because if it was, they didn't need safety in the Wild West, did they? You had a gun, I had a gun. Nobody fucked around,
right.
I'm fucking holding my safety right here.
right? So that's the point. So it's perceived safety.
Yeah.
It's the lie that they're telling you to get you to buy into the system.
Hmm. Food. Because it's located in the middle of Saudi Arabia, the only food that you're going to get is what they bring in.
Or what
And
they
who
grow
gets to
there.
decide what that's going to be?
Correct.
If they decide, you know what, we're no longer going to allow you to have actual meat, you're going to have, you
Oh,
know,
you mean like in Canada where they told people they couldn't buy seeds?
yeah,
Yeah,
you
everybody
know,
remembers that. That wasn't that long ago. It was only like
you
a year
know,
and a half ago.
instead we're going to feed you, insects as your protein, you know,
Crickets.
and those sorts of things. Um,
This is the worst
there's
fucking idea ever.
it really is. But unfortunately, the way that they advertise it and the way that they make it seem is this is a perfect society where you don't have to worry about anything. The flip side is the reason why you don't have to worry about anything is because you are being absolutely controlled. That's what they do in prison. Okay. I work in a prison.
I
We
keep,
have inmates that live there, have been there for decades, right? And they've just sort of assimilated to this way of living.
yeah,
They
they've
get
gotten to
up
the
at a
point where they
certain
don't know
time.
anything else.
Yeah, they get up at a certain time. They have a certain amount of autonomy. They get to go out. There's a rec field where they can play.
Play video games, have
Yeah,
iPads. Yeah, totally get it.
they've got access to all of these
Get a
things.
college degree,
You
work
know,
out every day.
yeah. But it's at the end of the day, it's still fucking prison.
Right.
You know, it's like you don't have the autonomy to leave. You don't get to say, I'm going to go someplace else or I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
You
I'm gonna
can't
go see
say,
family. Nah, not
you
today. You're
know,
not.
Well,
you
it's
can't
been
even
fun.
say,
What's that?
It's like, well, it's been fun.
Yeah. I
you
already
know,
had my face sat on and everything by the big guy. Like,
right. And same thing going back to the food. It's like they get exactly what is delivered and served
right.
there at the facility, right? If the facility makes certain things available to them, which they do on occasion, like for when they do like fundraising events and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, then they have the options to do that. But on any given day, they can't say, "I'm going to Burger King."
Yeah.
That that's not an option.
I will say I think there would be a portion of the population that would go like, fuck it, I'm done with this. That sounds way easier than this.
Hmm.
It's the same generation that's growing up now and they have no interest in owning a home.
Right,
They don't even want to rent.
right,
They just like they'd be happy in their parents' basement forever.
yeah,
I do think that there's a certain group of people that would buy into that.
hmm,
The problem is the quality of person that doesn't understand and buys into that. Um, I don't know. I think that there would be it wouldn't be what they hoped their end goal was
right,
because anybody that kind of takes a step back and looks at it completely objectively goes, wait a second, you mean I
hmm,
can't do A, B, and C and D that I would normally do?
hmm.
Hmm. I don't think I like that.
Right. The other thing is too that you have to give it consideration is that what sort of access do you have to any news, any information other than what they're providing to you? Because again, you're cut off from
Sort of like
the rest
now.
of the world, right?
Sort of like now. Except there's other media that's starting to make a name for itself and
Right.
starting to branch out outside, but that's a recent thing.
Hmm.
That's that I mean, you're talking within the last 4 years.
Right.
That's very recent.
But we'll use Korea as an example. It's like they don't have an option. They don't have a choice about what news they receive.
Correct.
They're fed nothing but propaganda.
Correct.
Okay, and they're being told that the way things are here is how it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and the rest of the
They've
world,
already built 15-minute cities
yeah,
in China and Korea,
hmm,
North Korea. Yeah, that's already happened.
yeah. And so I don't understand why anybody would look at that and say, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." But then again, I'm not a leftist. I don't.
Hold on, but look at the people that are saying that's a good idea.
Uh-huh.
They're not actually going to live there.
No, of course not.
Correct. But that's why they think it's a good you're over there chuckling, but that's why, right? Because
Right.
they don't have to do it,
Yeah.
but it would help them control us, which is what they want.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a great idea. Right.
So I know that Hunter had some thoughts and some questions about this.
Do it, Hunter.
So
Yeah, like I'm on their website looking at their leadership team or whatever, and there's no fucking way any of these people are gonna live there. Absolutely not.
You mean that guy that the main guy that's on there that's worth like 60 something billion dollars isn't just gonna live in a cubicle for the rest of his life?
4, 8, 12,
Poop
16.
poop in a kitty litter? That's
Right.
not gonna
So
happen, dude.
yeah, so
It's
like
not
like
gonna fucking
there's
happen. It's
there's
not. Right.
19 people listed here, and they're all like CEOs and heads of this and that, and it's like that. No, anyway. So my big questions and concerns, I guess, are primarily in their little advertisement video. One of the things they talk about is like, the location of this line is it's just like a 6 hour flight from all these different, like, major locations. But then we're talking about in terms of leaving this place, is that 6 hour flight to or just from,
I
like,
don't
to
know.
get
Does your
here?
barcode let you out?
That's just it.
If
It's
it
like,
does, then they're only flights too, bro.
yeah,
Not just from.
right. Is there going to be any option to leave? Because the location seems very convenient. Um, but no, governance. Governance. It's like, who's making the rules? Whose interests do they have in mind? Is there any kind of, I guess, not leeway necessarily, but are these rules and regulations going to be set in stone, or is there like a whole justice system, or what all is going into the actual.
I can't imagine that the country that they build this in is going to give up the rule of law in that location and make it like a sovereign state. I can't imagine.
right,
You mean Saudi Arabia? Hmm.
Bingo. So what happens? Or let's say they build one somewhere else in the Middle East. Now you decide that you're going to go there and you wake up tomorrow and they're like, "Oh yeah, Sharia law." Well, crap.
right.
Another
So
another consideration that came to mind is, again, the location being in the Middle East. Any, let's say, terrorist groups that happen to have their hands on any sort of ballistic missiles, they can absolutely reach from, let's say,
more than 6 miles.
yeah, 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 like just from wherever their little headquarters is at, to this line, which is meant to be a very diverse,
Correct.
space, right? And I could see where they might not
What
appreciate
what would
that.
be wrong with making a very diverse, compact city in a place that hates diversity? What
What could possibly go wrong?
like none of it you're telling me this and none of it makes any fucking sense. Like
Right.
none of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want
That's
to
my
go buy
concern.
land?
Yes,
I
definitely.
feel like I want to go buy land.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I imagine that over time they will be able to sell this idea to a lot of people. Uh, uh, for whatever reason, they're going to buy into it, either because they're simple-minded and they just don't understand the consequences, or because they care so little about their personal freedom that they're just willing to hand that over.
Take everybody outside exercising right now wearing a mask,
Hmm.
put them in a city, and let them stay there.
Right.
I am fine with all of this.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that's actually an excellent point that Hunter brought up. the idea that you're going to have a concentrated, instead of having to cover an entire country, you'd have like this straight line of like, if we're going to wipe them out, they're all lined up for us, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That that's
The
terrifying.
population per square mile would be ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's if I remember correctly from the video, the population expectancy is 9 million for the entire line, which is 170 kilometers long and only like 200 meters across. Like it's gonna be super fucking packed.
I
Yeah.
don't
And so I
like
know that, go ahead.
no, yeah, like I would be curious if anybody's gonna build like a quarter mile section of this thing and then use it like a model, right? Let people come see the model homes. Let people come walk through it. Let them, see what the grocery stores are going to look like. Let them get an idea of what this is going to be like.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be like walking into an IKEA. You're going to walk in and go, wow, look at all this furniture. It comes, you buy like this gigantic entertainment center and it comes in a, 1 foot by 1 foot box, some assembly required. And you're like, you get it home and set it up. You're like, oh, that's not exactly what I wanted. It looked
Right,
better over there.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think you're going to have a lot of buyer's remorse. I think you're going to have a lot. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah. I know that part of the way that they're going to try to sell people on this idea is that this will be a safe community. This will be a place where you don't have to worry about
Are they
all of
vetting
the
everybody
bad
that comes
things.
in?
Probably not.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
there you go.
But again, in advertising, that doesn't matter. Okay. And when they're doing the marketing for these sorts of things, they're going to try to make it sound like the safest, cleanest place that you could possibly live with the least worries that you have to take into consideration. Right. But anytime somebody tells you that this is for your safety, the very last fucking thing you should be doing is buying into whatever they're trying to sell you.
Ronald Reagan,
Yeah,
the 9 worst words you can hear. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
right. Exactly.
Run.
Yeah, when you hear somebody say something like that, when the phrase "the greater good" is probably the most dangerous phrase you can hear,
Yeah.
because at that point you're talking about something that isn't for the greater good of everybody. It's for the greater good of the people who are running the show,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Those 19 people on that list that Hunter's got.
Yeah,
Screw those guys.
yeah. And ultimately it'll be the wealthy people that can afford to live on their own land and in other places that don't allow themselves to be confined inside this prison, because effectively that's what it is.
Right.
They will have access to the whole rest of the world, and everybody else will be trapped in these little boxes.
Right.
Again, that's just a terrifying thought.
Well, it's the next step, in my opinion, the next step in population control.
Hmm.
Right. The whole conspiracy theory about the COVID shot or whatever. Think what you will, but the whole conspiracy behind the COVID shot was, in fact, there was a movie that I think John Cusack was in it, where they talk about they're not actually killing people; they're sterilizing the next 4 generations, right? Which we're
Hmm.
actually starting to see. We're starting to see women that had miscarriages and then can't get pregnant after that,
Hmm.
or women that were fertile and not anymore. Um, so if they can't just kill us off,
Right.
why not just put us in a quote unquote prison
Hmm.
where we're contently happy and occupied with everything that's going on in this little line,
Hmm.
and they have the resources of the rest of the entire world.
Right.
Right.
That they completely control and have access to.
Correct.
Yeah. Like I said, that is a terrifying
I don't
idea.
know, man. I still think if you take it one step, one I know this isn't what we're talking about,
Hmm.
but if you take it one baby step further and you talk about, and I know I've mentioned this before, 'cause I love conspiracy theories. Again, not that I believe them all.
So,
You're laughing, Hunter. Not that I believe them all, but I enjoy it because it makes me think outside the box. It makes me take a different perspective on something that maybe I wouldn't have thought about.
right. But there
Right?
was a quote that you shared with me earlier today
What was that?
about the conspiracy theories.
Yep.
It's only conspiracy for what, the next.
Oh, the
Yeah,
difference between conspiracy theory and truth is only about 6 weeks.
there you go.
So if you take it one step further and you talk about extraterrestrials and flat Earth,
Right.
right? The
Hmm.
whole idea that they're pitching
Hmm.
is that extraterrestrials are extra terrain. If you go outside the continental shelf of Antarctica, the ice
Hmm.
shelf,
Right.
there's other lands that have resources, abundant resources.
Hmm.
And the whole idea of why nobody can go to Antarctica or fly over Antarctica or be anywhere near it before you're like attacked by all these crazy Navy ships from every country that signed a pact for this thing is because you'll find other land and other technologies and futuristic things that could help us free energy, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because what would happen if the world, not just America, if the world found out there's enough energy for everybody forever,
Hmm.
infinite,
Right.
right? And resources and food forever,
Right.
forever.
Hmm.
I mean, millions of years, right?
Yeah.
What do you think would happen to the power struggle? What would happen to big oil? What would happen to electricity,
Hmm.
like electric companies? What would happen to transportation companies? What would happen? You know, they would all, it'd be a moot point. They would
Right.
have nothing.
Hmm.
And it just so turns out that like big oil, big pharma, like those are the guys that run everything,
Right.
right? And then it ties back to like the 9 or 11 largest companies like BlackRock's and all that, whatever, you know, Vanguard. That doesn't matter. But I think if you, like I said, if you took it one step further, population control, that's
Hmm.
really what it is.
Right.
It's population control.
So I have a question on that point. Those 11 companies that you're talking about, aren't those considered monopolies? Well,
Um,
BlackRock specifically.
no, because they're the one that decides what a monopoly is.
BlackRock gets to decide that?
Well, if they own every judge and every like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so they're sort of like the untouchables. You're never going to see BlackRock in a lawsuit.
Okay.
I don't know if it's ever happened. I don't know. Too bad we don't have like the fact check me, like the
Yeah.
get on that, Hunter. Like, has
Yeah.
BlackRock ever been sued?
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
Like,
I know that.
who would have the balls?
Yeah.
Like,
I know that BlackRock,
see,
and
that's
this
the
again
fastest way to get Clinton.
is
Like, I'm
one
going to
of
sue
those
BlackRock.
things. BlackRock is another one of
I
those
just did a
things
really
people should be
dangerous Google
really.
search.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Don't do it on my network. Switch. Let us.
Yeah.
Damn
So
it.
BlackRock is another one of those things that people should be really, really concerned about because BlackRock is buying up huge plots of land.
So I don't
And
think it's an. I don't think technically it's a monopoly because what they're doing is they hold the largest companies in a bunch of different sectors. Like
mhm,
they own the controlling majority of a bunch of different companies in a bunch of different
right.
like industries.
They're buying up huge housing developments and making it so that you can rent the houses, but you can't buy them.
Correct.
And if they do that,
Because they don't want us to own anything.
if they continue that and they get enough influence over where people live, then yeah, like you're saying, nobody can buy houses anymore. That's
Correct.
one of the
And if they hold the lease, they can tell you when you can and can't live there.
mhm.
So has BlackRock been sued?
Not successfully.
Knew it. Yeah, never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Mhm.
Well, hey, at least I can say I'm 40 something years into this journey.
Right.
But I will say, I think it's an exciting time to be alive. I think there's a lot of big changes coming. I think there's geopolitical things that are going to happen in the U.S. that are going to shake up the world. I think there's people doing things behind the scenes that are going to change the landscape of the world that are going to happen in our lifetime. Scary, right? Because anything like that takes work and dedication, and there's a level of um, exposure that you have to something going wrong.
Hmm.
But on the flip side of that, dude, think about like if your kids and then their kids
Hmm.
have knowledge of what you lived through and what you did,
Hmm.
right? Our generation, it's pretty crazy to think about. Like we could be the next great generation, like the World War II guys.
Yeah.
You know, those tough motherfuckers, man.
Yeah. Those people, I gotta say, with all of the stuff that they lived through, they deserve that title.
100%.
You know,
hundred
the
percent.
greatest generation was just that,
Yep.
you know, and I would love to say that we are that, but
I don't think we've proven
it's
ourselves yet.
no,
I don't think we've
it's
done enough work.
yeah, we haven't had to yet,
We're on the precipice.
but yeah, we're right there.
There's some weird shit going on, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it would take a pretty small catalyst to throw us to that point where we do step up and say, we're all done with this,
Yeah.
you know, to the level of Boston Tea Party where we are just flat out we're going to refuse
Yeah.
and say that we are no longer going to fall under this regime,
Right.
and we're going to change things. We're going to
Right.
make things. We're going to take the power back that we should. We're going to return to an actual republic, which is what we are,
Right.
not a
Oh, I hate when they
democracy.
call us a democracy.
Yeah, that is another lie that you were being fed. Okay, so
Get all personal in that camera, guys out there.
it's one of those things. There's so much of that of what nowadays would be called misinformation,
Right.
but it's actual truth.
Right.
If you dig into all of the things that the government is responsible for, all of the different,
Well,
I want,
dude, just make it easy,
mhm,
right? So you have all these people that watch mainstream media, right? All you have to do is shake them awake and say, look at it for yourself. Google those documents. They're out there. All of this stuff is public knowledge.
mhm,
Just read it. Take the time, pretend you're in college, do the research, and find out for yourself instead of being spoon fed these lies. It's
right,
very simple. But what we have to do is to get the people not comfortable enough that they actually want to read through all that boring shit
right,
because that's where the truth is.
mhm,
These are things that actually happen.
right,
And if they just read it for themselves, they'll be like, oh, well, that's a fucking lie.
right,
Right? It's super easy.
yeah.
But how do you do that?
So we'll use the Fed as an example. Okay, what is the Fed in control of?
God, I hope this isn't going on YouTube. We're getting kicked off right away.
But what is the Fed in control of? They determine like our interest rates and
Yeah. If
like,
you go back to the starting of the Fed, the sinking of the Titanic Olympic that happened,
yeah,
where I love when he laughs. I crack him up. Right. And that was the whole point of the Federal Reserve. And it's basically like borrowing against our own, like, terrible idea.
right.
Right.
But the people that started the Fed weren't part of the actual government.
Correct.
They were
They
just
were business people.
business people that
Yeah.
owned banks and
Correct.
decided that they wanted to be in control
Right.
of the banks and no longer allow other people to dictate
Right.
whatever was going on.
Right.
So they decided we're going to create this organization. We're going to call it the Fed to give it legitimacy. And all the while,
Gee, that's weird. That sounds like all these three-letter agencies that aren't actually part of the government but want to create laws and they can't.
ATF.
FBI,
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. They're not creating laws. They're creating rules.
Correct. But since they're not elected officials, they can't create criminals.
Yeah.
Hence, they can't create laws.
Right.
Right.
So it's just another way for them to bypass the,
Correct. But
Congress.
that's my point. But
Right.
that's my point.
But
People
yeah,
need to wake up and be like, I don't have to do what you say. Fuck you. We're not doing this.
right.
Right.
Yeah, there are just so many, and the Fed is just one example of an organization that was created. I don't even know why a lot of these agencies were created. The FDA,
For
for one,
control.
you
They were
know,
100% created for control.
yeah, to try to manipulate certain aspects of what we deal with. And
Yeah.
if you look at the amount of money that gets spent on all of these different agencies and misappropriated
Yeah.
for all these agencies, that could resolve our fucking national debt
Well,
multiple times over.
what's one of the largest things that started all of this, taxation without representation, right?
Hmm.
The average person, 40% of what they make is just gone. Literally gone, right? We pay taxes whenever we get our paycheck. After I
Taxation is
get
theft.
what's that?
Taxation is theft.
Correct. So you said it, not me. My name is not Hunter. I did not say that. So whenever I get my paycheck and I receive that money in my bank account, that money's been taxed.
Right.
Then I take that money and I go to spend it. It's fucking taxed again.
Yes.
Right. And then if I bought something that's worth value, that value is taxed again.
Mm-hmm.
These guys. You could never completely be off of the government, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I owned land and I built a cabin by hand, guess what? Property tax.
Right.
There's no way. There's no way you can do it.
Right.
Ridiculous.
It really is. It's unacceptable.
Right.
And like I said, they're just These are things that most people don't understand. They're completely unaware of uh, because they just lack the education. These are the things that they should be learning in school,
Right.
and unfortunately, they're learning everything except that now.
Right.
The our institutions of higher education have become indoctrination camps. They're not there to teach you anything anymore.
Right.
They're there to politically
Yeah.
charge you in
Go
the
to
wrong
trade school.
direction.
Problem solved.
Yeah, you know,
Learn how to make something with your hands.
right. So the funny thing about that, and this is kind of tying back to the COVID thing, we found out right away what things were quote unquote essential. Okay. And the things that aren't essential is all of the shit that they're teaching in college
No, no, no,
universities
no,
now.
no. Churches are not okay. Strip clubs, go ahead. Wednesday brunch, whatever.
Hmm.
But churches, no.
Right.
No. Strip clubs, okay. Casinos, perfect.
Hmm.
Doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
0 cents.
You know, but like this, we've become a culture of people who make money based on technology or based on a lot of other things. You know, th- People that live in the Silicon Valley, they make tremendous amounts of money off of all the things that they create, right? And
Yeah.
they have come to view themselves as the important people, right? When the pandemic hit and you took away a lot of people's ability to like go and do things, right? You very quickly realize that those are not the important things. The important things are the people who are driving the trucks to get their fucking food here, you know? Um, just all the things that it takes to maintain an infrastructure, right? Those
Which
are
they're
important
constantly
things,
trying to chip away at.
right? But they're yeah, not only that, but they're always constantly saying that the things that our technology is so much more important. That's why they make so much more than the people that actually do produce things and work with their hands and actually have real skills, right? They downplay that to the point of like saying that that's beneath. I don't know how to say that. It's much less important until.
So, but that's their track to honestly become a throwaway society,
Hmm.
right? Like, look at idiocracy, right?
Hmm.
It's trash everywhere. Everything is instant gratification. Everything is, um, like again, a consumable that is then thrown away. Cars,
Hmm.
everything's meant to be used once and thrown away. But that's how they get to that point: is how do you make things that last? How do you fix things? How do you innovate, right? Um, a lot of people don't understand that the open free market that we have in the United States is what makes us so good at innovation,
Right.
right? It breeds competition.
Hmm.
Um, so naturally, what you're going to get is you're going to get better products at a better price for the end user,
Right.
right? Because you have to stay competitive. You have to find better ways to make it do something that somebody else hasn't, to make it better, make it last longer, make it stronger, whatever that is, right? Even in our industry, guns and tactical gear, you see it all over the place.
Right.
Somebody makes a plate carrier and you're like, oh, it'd be really cool if it did this though.
Hmm.
And another version comes out from somebody else. And we're constantly growing and innovating. And um, but they don't want that,
No, of
right?
course not.
Right. So I think that's just a small piece of what they're doing to kind of pull us apart.
Hmm. It's amazing to me that our own government has reached this point where they have become, or they're attempting to be, totalitarian in nature, in the sense that they want to divide us so thoroughly that we literally destroy ourselves. It's the first law of combat. It's like you divide and conquer.
Right. So what most people don't understand is this has been happening for over 50 years,
Hmm.
right? Closer to 70 years. And with that, we're just now realizing what's going on, which makes the average person think it's just starting,
Right.
which is not, you know, like the word, I love the word Kabul. Like, Kabul's going to take over. We're going to be, right? No, they've been in control for the last 50 fucking years.
Right.
We're just now realizing that they've been in control.
Hmm.
Um, so I still think there's a lot of people that need to quote unquote wake up and see what's actually going on.
Hmm.
But part of me also realizes that there's um, my personal guess, somewhere
Mhm.
between 20 and 30% of the population in the US that's never going to fucking get it. They're just not going to get it.
Well, because they're buying into all the bullshit that they're seeing in the mainstream media.
And at what point do we say it's time to right this train and not write those people off, but realize that we're going to correct this issue as Americans and we're going to have to tend to this broken 20 to 30% of people that we want to be part of our society. We want them to be okay. We want them to see the truth,
Hmm.
but this is gonna mess them up bad, right?
Right.
But when do we make that decision to make that right hand turn and go, you know what? We're leaving.
Hmm.
This is stupid,
So,
and leave these people behind until we can come back and fix them.
right.
Until they go, oh crap, this is what's happening. We need help.
So, not to put words in your mouth, but that sounds like civil war.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Civil War was people against people.
Okay.
This is people against the Italian government.
True.
So completely different. This is us telling the people that we elected
Hmm.
to represent us that are not doing their fucking job.
Right.
So less Civil War, more Revolutionary War.
Correct.
Fucking redcoats.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because if you look at the people that are now coming out, and I don't like talking politics, but it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that I think the average person can see and tell something's going on. But whenever you have somebody like Mitt Romney coming out and be like, if Donald Trump runs, I'll vote for anybody else. I don't care, Democrat or not. Like, you're a Republican. What the hell's wrong with you? Like, all right, you're out. Like, that was easy. So, part of it, I do think that these people are being shown the door and they're giving us the finger on the way out behind the scenes, right? But I also think that we're exposing the quote unquote uniparty. It's the government versus the people,
Right.
right? We've given them too much power. We've gotten complacent. We sold our souls for convenience. And if the government was here to do something for us, we just took it.
Hmm.
And now we're reaping what we sowed and we don't like it.
Hmm.
So now we need to fix it because we're the ones paying for it.
Right.
We're the ones working. We're the ones paying for it. And they're there to assist us. They're not there to tell us what to do.
Hmm.
They're there to assist us. So I heard a very interesting thought. This came from some of the guys at Badlands Media on Rumble. I think it might have been, it was, so the ones that I listen to are like Devolution Power Hour. So um, Patel Patriot, John, Just Human, Kyle, um, and then Burning Bright. Like I listened to those guys. It was one of them that basically said, "Hey, look, it might have even been P. Gunnels, but I don't know. But it was basically one of those guys on one of their shows that said, look, what we need to do is we need to make each official in each district responsible for how they vote.
Hmm.
Meaning, if we as people in our city or in our state say we do or we don't want this, and then the politician goes and votes the opposite way, they need to be held accountable for it.
Hmm.
The other thing that needs to happen is, let's say there's 100 officials that are voting on this thing, and it's going to cost $100 million. Every district that votes yes on it, that percentage of that total comes from their district and their people. So now you're instantly going to hold those politicians accountable,
Hmm.
right? Because that's where your taxpayer dollars are going.
Among other things, yes.
Right.
Hmm.
So, but the point is that there needs to be a way to hold these politicians accountable for what they're doing.
Right.
And I still think that we can't really fix anything until we fix our elections, because that's the only way for us to hold people accountable.
Hmm.
That's the only way.
Right.
And it was set up that way on purpose. But if the
Yeah.
elections are fucked, what do we do? You can't do
No.
anything.
Right.
Right. Until you get, you know,
Hmm.
till you get to that point. But that's scary.
Yeah.
Anytime something goes kinetic, it gets scary. People don't like it.
So going back to something you said earlier, you know, one of my favorite movies, and it's a movie that I watch every year on the 5th of November, is V for Vendetta.
Oh, V for Vendetta. Yep.
Yeah. There's a part in the movie where he's giving this little speech to all of London, and talking about, he understands that there were many situations and causes for people to have, you know, bought into the current regime, the government, the totalitarian government that exists, right? And he said, there were all of these events that happened that robbed you of your reason, you know, death, disease, war, famine. It's like, those are things that are terrifying, and you can blame all of your decision making on those things. But in the end of it all, if you want to know who's truly responsible, the only thing you have to do is look in the mirror,
Right.
you know, regardless of all of the situations and all the things that may have led up to that. Ultimately, you were the one that made the decision to vote for the people that are in power now. You're the one that is standing by and allowing these things to happen,
Right.
you
Oh,
know?
two different things though,
Okay.
because we as people can try to change the outcome of an election based on how we vote.
Hmm.
If that doesn't work out because it's corrupt or fake or whatever,
Hmm.
then you have the right to stand up and say, hey, something's wrong.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
So I think one has to happen before the other. The first one's already happened. When does the second one happen? That was my point. When do we make
Hmm.
that right turn?
Right.
When do we say enough is enough?
Yeah. But there have been other things historically that have happened, like after 9/11, they use that as a way to implement lots of,
Oh, the Patriot Act.
the Patriot Act,
Yeah.
to take away so many of our civil liberties, all under the guise of this is for your own
Everybody
good.
likes patriots though. Why would we not vote for something called the Patriot Act?
Exactly.
Sly
You know,
bastards.
you know, but they, and this is another thing that they address in V for Vendetta, when the chancellor is talking about, we need to remind everybody why they need us. And then you see all of these news outlets just pumping out information about all of these horrific things that are going on,
Right.
like new diseases that are coming up, wars that are happening, like all of these things. It's like, and
Oh,
that's
sounds
constantly,
familiar.
exactly, that's exactly what the mainstream media does now.
Yeah.
They're just constantly filling everybody with dread over all these things. You know, if one thing doesn't work, they'll just move on to the next thing. You know,
That time span, what's crazy is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter to the point to where almost what they say doesn't fucking matter,
right?
which is that's the precipice,
Hmm.
right? Like they're already pushing out like, oh, this new virus from China, raw. And everybody's like, fuck that. I'm not wearing a mask. Screw you guys.
Right.
Like it's already happened. Like
Yeah.
that was headline news for about 15 minutes
Hmm.
and then
Yeah,
it's gone
fucking
again.
been there, done that, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have the t shirt, not wearing it.
Yeah. But like they tried to push, what was it, like the monkey?
Monkey. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Turns out there's only one way to get that.
Yes. Right. And for the vast majority of people, that's
Not
not a
it.
problem. You know. So, but they
Strange
use things
politicians
like
get it.
that
It's weird.
to try to terrorize people into like going along with whatever bullshit they're trying to
Right.
feed to them.
Right.
You know. So yeah, a lot of things need to change in this country.
Do
Pe-
your own research, follow the money. End of story.
Yeah,
Simple.
that's a big
Simple
thing
fucking
right there.
fix.
Yeah.
Who benefit? Ask your question. Who benefits?
Hmm.
How does it affect you and who benefits?
Yeah. Why were there so many new millionaires and billionaires created during COVID?
Right.
How did that fucking happen?
Well, I do think that there was two things.
Okay.
One was innovation because there were people that were really quick, saw the writing on the wall, smart, savvy business people that found ways to get products and services to people when they needed them, when they couldn't do the things they would normally do.
Hmm.
Right? Good for those guys.
Right.
Capitalism fucking rocks.
Right.
Right? The other half of that was the
Right.
corrupt people that knew this was coming, insider trading, if you will,
Right.
of products and services based on what they knew the laws and restrictions were going to be,
Hmm.
and were on the inside,
Yeah.
the club that you're not part of.
Yeah. I would say that that's more three quarters than half, but
I totally get it.
yeah.
I agree with you. But there
Yeah.
are some honest, hardworking people that are super intelligent that
Yeah.
made good moves and good for them. I can't be mad at that.
Right.
Right?
You know.
You can't be mad at that.
Right.
That's what built America.
But the people that orchestrate these issues and then
A
benefit
hundred
from them,
percent. 100%.
yeah.
There's no way a fucking politician making $143,000 a year that after 10 years that was worth $3 million is worth 260 stuff, whatever, some absurd amount of money. It
Right.
doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. If I could rub two nickels together and make a quarter, I'd do it all fucking day. right?
Absolutely.
Like, come on. How does that happen?
Yeah.
Follow the money.
Right. Yeah. Like I
It's
said,
crazy.
people need to stop buying into all of the shit that they're hearing, especially if you stop and consider the source that you're hearing it from.
Right.
If you're listening to the mainstream media, what you're really listening to is oligarchs, pharmaceutical companies, and big tech companies.
I love when all of the newscasters are passing out and they'd cut to you, brought to you by Pfizer. Like,
Yeah.
fucking funny shit, man. Cut after cut after cut. It's so good. Every college football game brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Moderna. How the hell does that happen?
Hmm.
How many
Yeah.
athletes have just passed out and died? It's insane. It's an insane, like, they just stopped reporting it. It got so common.
Right.
And whatever. I just,
Yeah.
this whole thing is so fucked up.
Yeah. But like I
And
said,
people have been brainwashed, man.
people need to understand that what they're actually hearing is from those organizations. Those companies are the
100%.
ones giving you that news.
Right.
Okay.
That we're calling
And
it?
it's only beneficial to them, not to anybody else.
Right.
Okay. So they need to start listening to other sources of news that are more independent, that are not being spoon fed all their information by those companies. And they need to take the time to actually look shit up for themselves.
That's the
You
big
know?
one. And as much as the as much as the company Google gets thrown around, like, just
Hmm.
don't use it. It's already been proven in court that they change their algorithms based on who you are and what you do and how you vote based on what you see.
Hmm.
Like, I could look up, oh, 2024 presidential election, and you could look it up, and we could be sitting on the same network next to each other with different search histories in
Hmm.
our browser, and we're going to see two completely fucking different things. How is that possible? Clearly, that's being manipulated, and that's
Right.
been proven.
Hmm.
So just don't use it. Just don't use it.
So the good alternative to that is DuckDuckGo.
That's what I use.
Yeah.
Yep. DuckDuckGo is
Um,
great.
which is interesting because the first time, like when we had just started Nonfiction Nation,
Mhm.
I did a Google search, nothing. I looked on Bing, nothing. There's no information at all. But when I looked on DuckDuckGo, it like at least brought up our website. You know,
There is something
yeah,
called this.
it's like this thing actually does exist. And as we go along, hopefully, they get stronger and stronger
Yeah.
But it's like it's just funny that they're able to filter out whatever information they decide
Yeah.
that is unnecessary or unworthy.
How many people download an app on their phone and go, oh, terms, whatever, yeah, terms of use, yeah, okay, click.
Hmm.
Like, don't even fucking look at it.
Right.
They have every picture, every conversation. It's listening even when it's off and charging on your nightstand in the middle of the night.
Right.
What wigs me out is I remember there was a time a few years back I was at work and I had seen somebody just like playing a game on their computer,
Mhm.
a game that I had never heard of, I had never seen, I had nothing, I had no experience with this game, but I said the name of it out loud, and then that very day, I see ads for this fucking game.
So you want to drive somebody crazy?
Yes.
Uh, whenever you're with your buddy, right? And if you notice if he has an iPhone, you just start talking about the most random crazy shit you can think of, like, oh, hot tubs dildos. And it's just like he'll start getting like the craziest, like, in his news feed or when he does a Google search for something, like
Hmm.
what comes through on that end for advertisements is hilarious. For like an afternoon, me and my buddy were talking about prefab cabins, right? Like, how cool would it be? And like, they've gotten so good that you can't tell the difference. And since it's not an actual cabin, quick story, you don't have to worry about the chinking in between the logs. You're not worried about all this stuff, but it looks like a cabin. Really cool stuff. Maybe a 15-minute conversation. Every single thing I did on my phone was a fucking ad for a cabin. Unreal. Like, just,
Just
yeah. So just talk about hot tubs for an hour with your
uh,
buddy, and that's all he's going to see is hot tubs.
fucking steal his phone and just be like, erectile dysfunction.
The pharmaceuticals are going to love him. He's going to get blue pills for days.
There you go.
It's so funny. It's true, though. It's true. And it's because we get these devices or we get these conveniences and we're like, oh, yeah, fuck it. We'll do that. Okay, I scrolled a little bit through it. I'm not reading all that. It's 46 pages of attorney speak. I'm not doing it. So that's part of our downfall, right? We sold our soul for convenience as Americans.
So I know that there are organizations right now that have begun doing their own versions of things like school.
Mhm.
Um,
There's
they're
whole companies that are launching homeschool curriculums for parents that don't want their kids.
right,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome.
but like Sheepdog Response literally built their own
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Okay,
And
so
don't forget there's a lot of good Christian schools and academies out there. My
mhm,
nieces go to a Christian academy. It's
yeah.
fantastic.
I was listening to an interview with is it Sean Ryan or Shane? Yeah, Sean Ryan.
Hmm.
Um, who talked about how he and a group of his in his community they created their own school
Hmm.
specifically so that they could homeschool,
Yeah,
and it wasn't intended to be like a long-term solution kind of thing, but they built it for their kids, which I think is an amazing idea.
yeah.
So there are things like that that are on the rise, just like the independent news companies that are starting to come up and become more
Yeah.
prominent.
Well,
So,
I think it starts local and then, excuse me, it expands from there.
mhm,
Um, like a shit hit the fan scenario, right? I have a group of people in my community that I communicate with on a weekly basis that we know, hey, you're good at this, I'm good at that. I have this, you have that. We have radios, we get
mhm,
together, like you have a garden, I do this, we know
mhm,
how to fix things. And we've created like our own quote unquote tribe,
right,
right? I know there's a few instructors that are really big on that. Mike Glover talks about it all the time. Glenn
mhm,
from Independence Training talks about it all the time, about creating these little tight knit communities of people that you can rely on when something goes wrong,
right,
right? So then you take that to the next scale. So nothing's gone wrong yet, but how do we grow this community and rely on each other and do these things that are beneficial for us
mhm,
and take away power and control from the people that have it?
right,
Well, let's create our own schools,
mhm,
right? Well, what do we do after our own schools? Well, let's have our own companies and create our own jobs, right?
right,
After that, what do we do? Well, let's get involved in our community. Let's start bringing more people into this thing that's so great.
mhm,
I think you're starting to see that trend happen, but it's only been happening for a handful of years, and it's going to take a long time to get something massive going. But I
right,
certainly think it's possible,
yeah.
which is very exciting.
So one of the goals that I have for non-victim nation is to eventually establish that sort of thing, like a school,
Yeah,
that is dedicated to the idea of making sure that kids are learning the things that they're supposed to be learning.
right.
And
Dude, even start small. I've talked about doing it here, doing an outreach for youth development program,
right,
right?
cool,
Let's teach kids certain skills. Let's make them confident.
right,
Let's make them comfortable in their own skin. Let's give them some assurance that they know how to take care of themselves and everything's going to be okay if something
hmm
happens.
yeah. Like I said, that is a goal that I have, and I would love to work with you more on that
Yeah,
and make that a reality,
solving the world's problems one drink at a time.
one drink at a time. So yeah, I think that more and more of those things need to exist. That's why we started this podcast,
Yeah.
is
And you know
because
what? The more people that go through like that, full circle, the less people are going to look at the line and go, "That's a good idea."
right, yeah, the people that are like on the extreme left, by all means, go live in the fucking line.
Dude, there's 20, 30% we're not going to be able to talk them out of it. They're going to
Yeah,
have to learn themselves.
right. And
And when
you
they're
know,
done, we'll be like, "Come on, I told you so, but come on, let's do this thing. Come on, come on."
and it's entirely possible that that 20 or 30% gets there and they're totally content with it. It's like,
That's
okay,
fine too. That's
by
fine
all
too.
means, you stay there and we'll enjoy the whole rest of the world.
Well,
You know, go to the beach when we want
I
to.
don't see that happening, but it's possible.
You know,
But it's possible.
you never know.
Yeah, I think what you're going to have is you're going to have whole communities of these so-called elites by themselves, not governing anybody, but living their version of the high life,
Right,
cutting each other's throats and backstabbing each other, and then the rest of us are all doing our thing.
right.
That's what I see happening, but whatever.
There you go. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of
It's the Hunger
positive
Games, but with
things.
Lambos.
Yeah. There are a lot of positive things that are on the rise. They are in their sort of infancy, I think,
Yeah.
but there's great potential, and I hopefully that will build enough momentum that it can start to counterbalance the things that exist now and move us to a better place without having to get to the extreme of either civil war or outright rebellion.
Yeah. I'm curious to see. I do think there's some things happening, and I think we've talked about this before, the idea of devolution, continuity of government.
Hmm.
I do think that there are some things happening. I just don't know the extent of it, right? Not everybody's meant to know the extent of it
Hmm.
because you're not supposed to know until it's happened. Um, but I do think there's something happening.
Mhm.
And it gives me hope. Let's say that it gives me hope that there is something happening in the background that is going to right the ship and turn it around before it is quote unquote too late.
Before we hit the iceberg.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
there you
We'll
go.
see, man. I don't know. It's exciting.
Yes, it
It's
is.
exciting.
And
I
you're
know
and it's
worries most people, but it gets me pumped.
you know, I sincerely hope that we are the next greatest generation,
Yeah.
or that Hunter's generation is the next greatest generation.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. I'd like to go out doing something.
yeah. So would I.
Yeah. I'd like it to fall on our generation. I'd like to get active, more active
Hmm.
and help, you know.
Well, like the podcast and like Packed Up itself. This is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
You know, it's important,
Yep.
and we need to help foster this and help it become an even bigger part of our overall community.
Yeah.
So yeah. On that note, I greatly appreciate the fact that you have built this, uh, the co-op specifically, because in in doing so, you have created an environment where all of these things can come together, where so many people can come and improve themselves, improve their knowledge, and everything else. And because of my relationship, my friendship with you, we have the studio now, we have the podcast, we're able to like reach even further than we were before,
Right.
and again just keep growing this idea.
Yep. I've got a couple of theories that I live my life by. One of them is well, so growing up, there was two things that were instilled in me. One, say what you mean and mean what you say.
Hmm.
So if I mess up something, I want to be held accountable for it. I want to fix it. I want to know about it. I want to make it right.
Right.
Second thing is walk with a purpose, not physically walk with a purpose, but if you're going to do something, do it with purpose,
Right.
right? And with those things, I didn't want this whole vision of the tack up co-op. It wasn't for me to be the guy doing the thing, right?
Hmm.
It was for me to be behind the scenes, help other people, help companies grow, help educate civilians and regular people that need help,
Hmm.
right? Educate them, get them the tools they need to be good at whatever it is they decide they want to be good at. And yeah, kind of just be behind the scenes. I'm not a spotlight kind of guy. I'm just not.
Right.
Um, but on the flip side of that, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people, you
Right.
know, and I'm blessed and I'm thankful for that. I think everything happens for a reason. I think I've been put in this situation to do something. I'm trying to hold true to that and help as many people as I can. And in the scheme of things, I'm a tiny guy. I'm a nobody on the list of people in this industry,
Right.
and I'm okay with that as
Hmm.
long as I feel fulfilled in helping other people.
Right.
Um, so it's a little different, especially in this age of Instagram and Facebook and you know
Right.
trendsetters or influencers. That's not me. Anybody that follows my Instagram knows I post twice a month.
Right.
It's not me.
Yeah.
Usually it's other people tagging us for other things that they're doing in our facility.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. I want to keep working and keep my head down and just have a positive impact on as many people as possible.
Hmm.
That's all I want to do.
Same here.
Yeah,
you know I think of it this way: it's like a chorus isn't made up of one voice, it's made up of many.
right,
Right. You and I are contributing to that,
right,
and the eventually that just becomes an overwhelming thing that is able to like create real change in the world.
right.
you
Yep.
know
I wholeheartedly believe that.
yeah.
Yep.
So there we go.
Sweet.
That is an excellent place for us to kind of wind up.
Love it.
And
God, I love conspiracies. Seriously, that's my favorite thing to talk about. We need next time we need to talk about the Bigfoot one because there's some dude. I don't know, like time travel, Bigfoot. Because there's then where's the bodies? Anyway, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. I love conspiracies.
there you go. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
And
Anytime.
yeah, can't wait to see what the future holds for us.
Let's do it.
Right on. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Also, you can now support the Non-Victim Nation by donating via listener support directly on Spotify. Remember, the story of your life is being written right now, and you are the hero.